it comes to Shrinking, I have to be honest, I enjoyed it for the most part. First of all, I think Jason Segel did a great performance. I think he nailed it on the comedy aspect, but when it came to the drama side, he really showed off his acting chops and pulling off quite great emotional and heartfelt scenes. Not only that, I think a lot of the cast members in this show have the great amount of comedic scenes, each and every one of them having their own unique comedy element adding to the show, and even a few of them had great emotional scenes as well. Now, as much as I praise Jason Segel and his performance, I think the most eye-capturing performance on this show has to go to Harrison Ford. Did it amazingly. He was hilarious in each and every scene he appeared in, but not only that, I think on the latter half of the season he really shows his dramatic, emotional side that he's well known for. I do love the plot of this show, as it is about a therapist, that being Jimmy, who is taking a new unorthodox approach to his clients, and to an extent you can see the progress with 50-50 on some of his clients. Sadly, this is an unorthodox approach he later abandons, not only because co-workers are telling him it's not working and it's quite bad, but it's also unprofessional and he's starting to see that, but it's also not working with a particular client. It's somewhat sad that he abandons this idea, as it's, to me, one of the main hooks of the show. Apart from that plotline, they have another main one, that being he is trying to reconnect with his daughter, as he was somewhat in a bad state when he lost his wife, and it's been a year since, and he is now trying to reconnect with his daughter. And it's a really interesting watch, as you see he's trying his best, and we see that he is getting close and the relationship's getting better, but then during the latter half it's always a back and forth of like it being good, it being bad, it being good, it being bad, all within like one episode. It's quite annoying. When it comes to the characters of the show, I have to be honest, there's very little hatred towards any of the characters. I think they all have their own unique likability, and yes, they all have good intentions. It's just the way they execute them, or it doesn't really go their way, but it never strips away any of their likability. Another thing I love about the show is how they really dive into the character development and flesh out these characters. I find that fascinating, as you don't really get that much in comedy, but also you don't really get that on the first season of a show, which I found remarkable. Now, this is something small that I enjoyed. Because this is created by Bill Lawrence, who created Scrubs, we get to see a lot of the cast appear on the show or help in the creation. First of all, one of the main characters, that being the neighbour Liz, most would recognise her as Jordan from Scrubs. She does a great job. We also get to see cameos like the janitor from Scrubs appearing in a one-off scene where he is playing a client of Harrison Ford's character. Just a really cool one-off scene. I hope he returns, but I still enjoyed that one-off moment anyway. And last, we get to see Zach Braff directing an episode of the show. Now, when it came to the finale, I have to be completely honest, I thought it was a somewhat lackluster ending, as with the actual episode itself, I felt like it was lacking in big laughs. Comparing it to the other previous episodes, they had really big laughs, and this one really did not. It had some moments of little laughs, but there was no big one. And I felt like during the end there was a wedding scene that would be the perfect opportunity to pull off a big laugh, but instead they take the serious route, which understandable for the plot, and we're seeing this character develop, but to me it was a wasted opportunity for a big laugh. And then when it comes to the actual end of the season, I felt it was very predictable, as not only it was foreshadowed earlier in the episode, but also throughout the show. Now, when it comes to criticism, sadly I do have a few. First of all, I feel like I mentioned earlier, the beginning of this show had great amount of big laughs, and as the show continues we see less and less of that, and it becomes more dramatic than the comedy side of things, which I think is a shame. When it comes to the character Sean, I felt like his plot was somewhat abandoned after episode 6, as we see this character going from being a war vet, was struggling with his PTSD, and he's going into therapy, but we don't see him going into therapy anymore, and if anything they kind of strip that plotline away to give him a new one later in the show, but sadly he is having to share this plotline with the neighbour Liz, and I don't know why, it just feels cheap that he's sharing this plotline. Another thing is, as much as I love most of these characters, I feel like during the latter half we're somewhat seeing that they're quite self-centred, a few of them, and to an extent unbearable. And my last critique is a small one, but I feel like the show can be quite predictable. It has a lot of predictable moments. Now, Admittedly, because it's a comedy, I'm gonna let it slide. When it comes to comedy, comedy can be quite predictable at times. That's the enjoyment of it. At times it can trick you, but most of the time you know what's going to happen. Overall, it was a fun show in the beginning, but as it continued, it started to become less funny and drifted from what it originally was in the start. But at the same time, it was still a nice, enjoyable ride, as I really loved the characters and how they fleshed them out, and for the most part, I really enjoyed that. Is this show good? I'd say it could have been great, but it's still good. Rating wise, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Now, when it comes to recommendations, there are quite a few, as like I mentioned, it is created by Bill Lawrence, who has created Scrubs, and because of the castmates, I recommend that show. I still think it has a great amount of comedic moments, but at the same time can be quite sad or dark in some cases. Before Jason Segel took this therapy role and executed it, most may remember him as the stoner Nick from Freaks and Geeks. Speaking of sitcom characters, the neighbour Liz, her husband, most recognised as the freeloading husband neighbour in Married with Children, especially in the later seasons, playing the great Jefferson Darcy. And last but definitely not least is Harrison Ford, who did an amazing job on this show and has many memorable roles, but for me personally, I'll always remember him as Indiana Jones. Those are my recommendations. This has been my review for Shrinking Season 1. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed, please like and subscribe. And as always, thank you and have a nice day.